Ta-da! Hello, everybody. It's me, Kyler. Welcome in. It is Monday night. Hope everybody's having a great night. I'm just going to make sure everything's getting set up here. Let me check, see if. Oh, wow, I'm actually live and on Facebook this time. There I am. Last time it didn't go live. So we'll see if anybody's going to pop in. I'm just going to do a little quick recap from this evening's city council meeting that took place. It was a pretty uneventful meeting for the most part. There was a lot of wordsmithing that went on. I didn't get a chance to be there in person for it, but there was a little budget workshop that took place prior to city council. I'm going to try to recap what I was able to watch of that. And then I do have some campaign updates too. So got a bunch of fun little tidbits coming in today, and hope again everyone's having a great night. I appreciate you for checking this out. And I think, you know what, tonight I think I'm going to start with my updates for the campaign. So let me just pull up the agenda from the council meeting tonight, and I will get rocking here. Today is the 16th. I don't know why it had that one on there. Okay. Anyway, so let's start out. First and foremost, I have some fun updates. Got a bunch of stuff in the mail this week. First off, I have my cards. Get the glare off there. Did get these in today. I am super proud of these. I made these. I designed them all by my lonesome, and I think they're great. They turned out fantastic. I thought I got my yard signs in the mail today, and I was super excited, but I got the boxes, and it's just metal stakes, I guess. So they're not quite here, but I do have the original design here that I'm going to show everyone to give everyone a little preview of what the yard signs are going to look like, so long as they turn out okay. I think they're going to, but ta-da! Let me get this banner off here. There we go. Boom. Just like that. I love it. I think this is going to be a great yard sign. They're coming in the mail. They should be here anytime. I will make a post as soon as those are out, so I will get them. If you do end up wanting a yard sign, definitely let me know. I've got a ton of them coming, so I can get as many out as possible. Other big updates for the campaign, still working through getting signatures. We're getting close. I think I broke the 200 mark now. Appreciate everybody that's been able to sign. You're going to start seeing me out around town a lot more towards the end of March now, collecting those signatures out and about. I'll be downtown, I know for sure. But let's go ahead and jump into the city council meeting for tonight. At 4 o'clock, there was a special budget meeting. Couldn't make it to that, had to work. They went through a lot of financial issues, or not issues, but financial stipulations. They went over the property tax portion of how the evaluation process just happened. I saw that. We went through and discussed a little bit about where the valuations come from, where it's at compared to the past. But I think one of the big things that they came away from was towards the end of the meeting when, again, city finance director Dave Lakefield came on and said, hey, like I'm paraphrasing here, forgive me, I watched this in one and a half speed over the last like 45 minutes. So we had city finance director David Lakefield come on and say, hey, we have some potential issues that could arise here with the way we're spending our money, or out of our reserves. If our reserves get spent too much, or at the rate we're spending them right now, we could be under that state mandated minimum of them, and we don't want that. That's something, especially when we already have $5 million a year for the next like 3 years earmarked to come out of reserves. That's all going towards the new police station. We really have to be careful with how we spend that, and got to be careful where we're watching out for our future with those dollars in our reserves. And the bigger thing then comes to, well, how are we going to finesse the budget going forward? And there was a lot of discussion that went forward about how we're going to look at this going ahead. Are we going to have to find places to cut? Are we going to have to start cutting jobs? I mean, there's a lot of hard decisions that we're going to have to look at, and they had some good discussions in there. And if you do end up electing me to city council this June, I'm going to have a lot of I would like to think I'm going to have a lot of good input into that discussion as well. I don't want to cut jobs if we can help it, but at the same time, we are very limited to where we can raise our property taxes from. There's that 3% cap, but there is one caveat. I don't think this is where we want to go with it, but this is an option that's still technically on the table for this year and this year only, and that would be to go back to it would be the 2024 budget cycle mill levy that we had for that as our baseline for the 3% cap going forward. That would raise property taxes a lot. I don't know if that's the best move, but it could provide the city a little bit better of a stable baseline to start at and then trim down from. But I don't know if that's how I prefer to do it going forward. But that's definitely some things we're going to have to be looking out for coming up. We have again, Minot is a city of 47,000 people. I love Minot. I don't want to force anyone out. I don't. I think everyone deserves to work here. And I know one thing, big discussion they were having in that budget meeting was, hey, compared over the last, I think, 10 years, we have technically seen a decrease in total city employees by like 10, but from part-time employees have gained like 50, and we've lost like 60 part-time people. So the balance there is a little off, and there's definitely going to be a hard look going at that going forward if that's the best place. Because if you don't cut that, a lot of other places you're going to have to start looking at our infrastructure, and that's something that we know in Minot we can't cut that too much. Our roads are interesting as is, and on top of that, we have the Third Street Bridge project that's coming up, and hopefully when NAS gets resolved, that will put a little bit of a gap on there, but it's still, we're sitting, gosh, what was the number? No, I shouldn't say this without remembering. I didn't write it down. I think it's $13 million that we're going to have a deficit for if we still include that $5 million to the PD, which for their rehab and everything. And I think that's probably for the best, but also this is going to be a very interesting budget cycle, folks. We're going to have a lot that we're going to have to look at. There's going to be a lot of tough questions because right now the $21 million we have levied in property taxes, we're going to be in a deficit. We would have to spend out of reserves again to cover that extra gap. And at the rate we're going with the reserve spending, within, I think, 2 years, we're going to be under the state minimum for what we're supposed to have in our reserves. And that's not a great practice either. Obviously, there was a point a couple of years ago where we maybe had too much in reserves, and there's a flip side to that discussion where we needed to maybe spend down a little bit from that level. But now we don't want to overspend our reserves, especially when we have stuff earmarked for that already with $5 million a year for the PD. We just have to be mindful of that. And going forward, make sure if you guys do elect me going ahead, I'll be ready to help provide, I'll be ready to have input into those discussions. On top of that, now let's move into the regular city council meeting. I did miss the first half hour, unfortunately, at work, but rolling in, they had a really cool Union Silos presentation, because that is all wrapped up. I think it was Tim Bowman and did the presentation up there. I missed it in person. I got to catch a little bit of it online, but really, really cool to see that project wrapped up. I have pictures from pretty much about a year ago right now, from last April, where I was going around downtown just taking a bunch of pictures. And I was looking at them just recently when I was trying to find stuff for the campaign to use. And I noticed one that I had took of the Union Silos where it's free any of the painting, and it's a really, really cool thing to just be able to compare it side by side. I love that project. But anyways, going into the meeting itself, in the reports, there was not a ton of interest. There was the consent items, and they pulled a few of them. The first one, they had some administrative stuff, but the big one that they had some question marks for were, gosh, what was it, 5.21, I believe, or 5.2. But anyways, consent items went by pretty smooth. The real meat of the discussion in today's city council meeting was, again, the alcohol ordinances. This has been something that they've been dealing with for a very long time right now. We have gone through a ton of iterations in our alcohol ordinance over the last year. The city attorney presented the newest one, and there was a couple different motions that got brought forward and how to curb that. But the one big thing, and I don't think I have my notes in front of me because I left them out in my car, but it's fine, because the one big discussion point that they kind of had was talking about the cap on people allowed inside the residence, of how you're going to consider it either a supper club versus actual liquor establishment. And that's a discussion they've had a lot over the last few months. They decided on it a couple meetings ago to go the way they were currently. And again, there was a lot of wordsmithing kind of that went on with this. There was a couple points of order that got thrown out, and the parliamentary stuff is always a little it's necessary for what we're doing 100%, but it takes the layman that's watching it out of it a little bit, in my personal opinion. But also, we don't need to rehash the same stuff over and over. But there's a follow-up to this that happened. There was a public appearance that came forward at the end, because the city did go to put a cap on how many off-site special events that a liquor license holder can apply for in a year. And the certain business, the Regency, which is a catering company here in town, does dozens of these events every year. And they had a little bit of they were upset with the 21 number of events in a year, and they sometimes have that in a month, especially come Christmas time. That's something that they have a ton of in a month. And sometimes they have to go out of when they're going out of city, out of Minot, to go around the state with their services. They have the same issues where they have to either go and work around the restrictions that are there to find someone to provide service for them, or either find a different route. And that was the big point that Carl got to at the city council meeting is, hey, we're sitting here and we are the ones that have to live through this. We would have preferred to have a discussion prior. He was expecting there to be a public appearance part at the alcohol ordinance discussion portion rather than at the end with the public appearances. But that's when he went up. That's when he said, had to say like, hey, we would rather have had some input on this, but unfortunately weren't allowed. And this is going to come back up again. We are not done seeing the alcohol ordinance and liquor licenses. This is for sure. We'll be back at least once more. Come late April, I believe, is when they said the second meeting in April, I want to say, but expect to see the alcohol ordinances back on the schedule again. They had a couple other little things on there. There was assistant city attorney contract renewal for legislative matters, getting Shane Gettle back on and going for that. A couple budget amendments for the year-end stuff now that we're getting into the next cycle. A couple things where we just have to update some stuff with that. There was a couple of service agreement updates to the Animal Empowerment League with how their contracts working out well with Ward County for the temporary pound services. There was just a couple little things that came up over the last week or two that they had to address to kind of get squared away. And then the last one that was kind of interesting, was the last agenda item, frankly, was a veterinarian service agreement for the temporary pound service. Chief Fry is going to go out and try to find vets around town that are interested in providing the service. And if they are, then they will come back to council with the agreement. But first and foremost is finding the people to do it. Personal appearances rolled around, and there was a discussion of the LPRs in town, which I just want to reiterate to everyone. Alderman Fuller did it at the meeting as well. They have not been turned on yet. The Axon license plate readers are still off. They have not been turned on in town. It doesn't sound like they will be on until late March. So be sure to keep that in mind as well when you're out driving around. Don't have to worry about anything of that nature yet. And hopefully, of course, too, when they do turn it on, if there is any kind of abuse of that system that we do see, I hope that we'll be able to nab it right away in our committee meetings, and we'll be able to call that out and get that nipped in the bud before it gets anywhere that it shouldn't be. But that effectively wraps up tonight's city council meeting. There was, again, I told you about the other personal appearance that was there. At the end, liaison meetings, miscellaneous discussion items. The only thing that came up in the miscellaneous discussion items was potentially bringing back up the 21 event cap that they just put on, and a caveat with that cap too. So if a business or liquor license holder is holding a special event off-site, they can only in theory do it up to 21 times in a year, versus if they're holding a special event but it's on their physical site, like in the parking lot, they can do that as many times as they want. And generally speaking, for bars themselves, this is, or most liquor license holders, this is a good event or a good thing to do for them. I think it's a very clear way, but there are those special interests or special exceptions, more or less, where it kind of comes back and you see that, hey, maybe we do need to reconsider this one at the next meeting. But I assume city council is going to do their due diligence, go discuss this matter more with some of the alcohol license holders and some people involved in this that have some stakes in the matter. Hopefully we'll get it resolved. But I think that's all I got for tonight. Thanks everyone for watching. I got over a dozen people on. That's awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. Lisa, I always find city council meetings interesting. So thanks for commenting. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. I have my cards out and about now. I'm going to start handing these out a ton. Hopefully you'll start seeing these around. Hopefully yard signs are going to be here pretty quick and end of this week, and I can start getting those out as well. Signatures should be done by the end of the month, and get those turned in, and it's official. There's 3 of us in the race now, folks, so it's starting to heat up. I think there's still going to be 5 of us. I think that you're going to see 5 people in this race still, and it's going to be a heated 2-month sprint at that point to the end and to the finish line. And I appreciate every one of you for watching, following along. Make sure June 9th is the big day to get out and vote for me. Kyler Collin for city council. And again, thank you all so much. Hopefully we'll do another one of these, worst case in like 2 weeks, but if not, we'll catch you soon. And as always, have a great day or night. Oh, there we go.